Is TikTok just YouTube 2.0? Hi, I'm Simon Caine, and in today's episode of The Rest is Content, I'm chatting with my good friend and creator economy expert, Laurie Smith. She's going to be breaking down the cycles of social media platforms and why your favorite creators are facing a whole new world of challenges. Forget billboards, we're looking at why a creator with 50,000 views might be more valuable to a brand than a primetime TV slot. But for now, let's look at how Laurie got her first job in social media.
So I got started in content. I originally started in TV, in broadcast, because I was convinced I wanted to be a video editor for TV. Started at a post-production house and immediately hated it. The pace was just not, it wasn't for me. It's a great industry with loads of amazing people, but I wasn't loving it. And I also was every evening going home and watching YouTube, and I was going on to social media. I wasn't going home and watching any of the shows that I was working on or anything like that. So I think for me, my whole world was social content. I was watching YouTube. That was the main kind of video sort of content I was taking in. And then after TV, I kind of didn't know what I was going to do, but I had what I now know is this backlog of experience. I know how creators work, and I've seen how communities can be built and that kind of thing. And I actually reached out to a friend of mine because I knew I wanted to move to London. And so I messaged a good friend of mine who lived in London, sort of saying like, oh, do you need a flatmate? And he said, no, but would you? But he said, I am. Yeah, exactly. But he said, I have just started working at a startup influencer marketing agency. Do you need a job? And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing, that an agency could exist within this world. What does that mean? But what it was at the time was a YouTube specialist agency that kind of built brand campaigns for brands using YouTube creators, working with YouTube creators to make the promotions. And I was like, well, I know loads of YouTube creators. All I do is watch YouTube. Perfect. And so I kind of stumbled into an industry I didn't necessarily realize existed. I'd watch YouTubers talking about, doing brand deals and doing sponsorships, seeing kind of the other side of where that kind of came from. I kind of fell into that accidentally. And then I started working in influencer that way. A lot of my friends are content creators, so that was kind of how I also got into content as well. So as most things, I think in creative careers, I fell into it accidentally and then made it work based on just what I was already doing and already enjoying and already watching.
Yeah, if it makes you feel any better, literally everyone has the same answer.
Because it
They're
wasn't
like,
real.
I just fell into this thing that didn't exist, and for some reason it became a thing that paid the rent, and now I do it for a job.
It's completely that.
I find it so reassuring because, as I said just before we started, and I've had another guest on, Dylan, who had on another episode, we both started when there were jobs but no industry. And so, there's part of you that I think that doesn't help with the imposter syndrome.
Completely.
Because all of a sudden, this industry's built around you, or at least around a load of people that have these skill sets. And you go, at some point, is someone going to notice?
Fully that, because I was a bit sort of, there was a real point where it was like, I was moving to London to do a job where I talk to YouTube creators and try and get them brand deals and try to get them money and stuff. And I was like, this isn't anything. This isn't a real job. How is this? And, more and more sort of opportunities, and, you start working with creators who are working on cool projects, and all of a sudden it was like, well, I actually know quite a lot about this. And I think that's, again, that imposter syndrome where you go, well, this isn't a real job. This isn't a real career. This isn't a real anything. But then you actually stop and you go, no, I actually know a lot about this. Or I have a lot of experience because all I've done is, I was born at sort of the perfect time for social media to be like everything. And kind of before it was influencer, before influencers were a thing, it was, I was watching people just uploading things they thought were fun to YouTube. Before YouTube gave you money, before there was any version of this that was a real proper career, just back when it was, trending videos or, people doing challenges. What's in my bag challenge? An absolute throwback. That was huge. But I'd spent so much of my life watching that kind of content and engaging with it and seeing how those communities can be built. That by the time, like you say, a job sort of started to happen, actually I've got loads of experience. It just didn't feel like real experience.
Oh, complete. I started rewatching. Do you remember Becoming
Yes,
YouTube,
yes, with Ben.
Yes.
Somebody.
Thingy,
Yeah. God, and
Ben
a slightly
Redhead.
scary one to watch now. Give it a few.
Oh my God, some of it hasn't aged very well. But I was rewatching it because I just had a flashback where I was thinking like, oh my God, that series existed. And so many of them were like, we just put up videos because they were
Yeah.
funny and we just needed something to do. The creative industry's lost that somehow,
Yeah,
like in a certain way.
I think we're trying to. I think there are people trying to claw back to. I'm sort of sick of the word authenticity at this point, because that is all I hear anybody talk about, and I get it, and it is true, and I do think it's something. When they talk about authenticity in social content, it is. Yeah, I think people do want to watch real people talking about things in opinions they actually have, and talking about things in ways that they really think about things. It didn't used to have to be an effort to be authentic, because at the time people were just doing it, and it just happened because there was no benefit to doing anything in a particular way, because you didn't make money. Brand deals weren't really a thing, or they were, but they were sort of a bit underhand, and you had actual brands sort of saying, hey, don't tell people that we told you to say this, which obviously is a big no now, but it was a much different place where, authenticity wasn't an effort or a contrived focus. It was just something that happened because people were just existing and putting it on the internet.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I like TikTok better than YouTube at the moment. But it's just because people are just holding their phone and talking at it, and it feels like YouTube was back in the day. And so when brands are saying we need to be authentic, I go, well, then you're actively not being, because you're saying we need to be. Whereas this person who's like, I think this of this, I go, well, you can't be more authentic than that. You're literally just talking into your phone.
If it's part of your brand strategy to be authentic, you're kind of done. It hasn't worked. But I have an interesting theory on the TikTok world, which is that I'm sort of seeing that social media is working in cycles. I mean, the experiences that are happening now with TikTok creators, and that as an industry in and of itself, how the world of content on TikTok is moving, is the same cycle we saw in YouTube. Again, it is people that are existing authentically and uploading stuff because they think it's funny, or, a lot is being born out of good comedy on TikTok, a lot of good comedy and sketch comedy. That used to happen on YouTube. It still is happening to a lesser degree, but it is very high budget. It is very, you have to have a lot of money. You have to have a really good setup. You've got to have a camera. You've got to have a set. You've got to have everything. It didn't used to be that. YouTube used to be, you'd have one person and they'd sit on one side of the frame, do a bit, sit on the other side, and just cut between. That's how sketch comedy used to work. And there's a big cycle happening where even the lived-in experiences of creators is so... What I've already seen within the YouTube world, this idea of, the parasocial relationship, that's something that we're in the sort of middle of it with TikTok. It's sort of come into play where people are seeing, oh, there's an audience here. Oh, they're relating to me in quite a strong way now. It's become, from a very passive platform to having really strong audiences who love their creators, and seeing that shift of, oh, I kind of can't just message or, just respond to messages from people, or, I have to try and read between the lines a bit. And I find it fascinating because it's like this path has been tread before in different ways. There are much bigger challenges I think TikTok creators face, because now there is no version of social media that isn't influencer. Whereas YouTube used to have that. There used to be a space where you didn't have to be an influencer. You could upload without trying to do anything other than upload a video. But for me, it's fascinating because it's like, oh, this has kind of been done before. We've seen these patterns. We've seen this journey of what it was to what it is becoming.
Yeah, who's that channel? There's a channel. I'm gonna have to come back to it in a minute and remember what it is. But there's a channel that uploads one video a year, and it's always at Christmas, and it's like a recap video. And I love it because that's all they do. Like, they have no aim to be anything bigger. They just do it for the fun of it. It's two lads, and that's it. And don't get me wrong, I get, my content brain kicks in and goes, oh, but you could do like optimize. An Easter one, and you could do a whatever. Yeah, exactly. And you could do it monetize if you did it more times a year. But I also go, no, like, there has to exist a space for just people that go, I'm just going to do this thing once a year, one hit, go away. Probably read the comments for a week and then not read them for the rest of the year. And just
for the love of it, just doing it to do the thing.
Love of the game, I've got. Oh, I tell you what, this is it. I have a opinion on TikTok that changed recently. I say recently. It's been changing all year, right? So when they made it, so you had to have a video that was a minute to be monetized. I thought, oh, it's just so annoying. It's going to be ridiculous and whatever. Now I go, actually, no, this is really good, because really what you've got is you've got a load of creators that go, right, it needs to be 61 seconds long. Or whatever it's going to be. And as a result, they're like editing a useful amount of stuff. So like, there's these really fun like sound trends that are like 5 seconds long. But actually, I quite like being able to go, okay, I'm into this, and I know it's only going to be about a minute. Like do you know what I mean? Like I don't mind now because I go, okay, I've been trained to go. I'm gonna sit in this sketch. I'm gonna sit in this video for a
Yes.
minute, and that's not too much to
Yeah,
ask.
it's
you
not.
know?
I think it's working within the psyche that unfortunately TikTok has made the audience have, which is fast, as fast as possible. It's kind of forcing, and I think it is if the entire platform is flooded with things that are 61 seconds, it kind of forces your brain to do that a bit more, and you get a little bit used to it as well.
That's the only thing I wish they would do, though, is I wish they would have. So, on YouTube, you can search it's like under a
Yes.
minute, 5 minutes, whatever it is. I wish there was a way of saying, right, for my feed for the next hour or however
Yes.
long I'm going to.
Yeah,
scrolling, that's
hour was
probably right.
telling. You've just told on yourself there.
No, in my head, I was like, that seems.
Yeah.
That's how bad that is. But anyway, let's say for next hour, I want to see only stuff that's like under 90
Yes.
seconds long, right? Or I want to see stuff that's longer than this, or I want to just see trending sounds because I think it'd be really fun. Because sometimes and also level out the audio.
Oh,
like,
I beg.
I'll be like, really, yeah. That'd be amazing. But anyway, sorry. Let's talk about your career.
We're never going to get through this. It's impossible. If there's anything the two of us can do, it is not stay on track.
Well, I told you in the DMs beforehand. I was like, okay, it's not really. It's like a chat with like that people are kind of listening to, and it's just a bit of fun. But okay, so Digital Voices. Yeah. The last 4 years of your just before you go in freelance, last 4 years of your life. Okay, so you started out as a producer.
Yes, yeah. So it was again one of those things where it was a startup agency, and the jobs we were just trying to name them the best we could because it wasn't not that it wasn't a real job, but there wasn't, account manager. There wasn't, those things didn't really apply too much. So yeah, I was technically a campaign producer. That role within the influencer agency was to, we'd be given sort of a campaign from a brand, and the brand would say like, hey, this is how much money we have. We know we want to work with creators and influencers, but we don't know what we need from that or who they are or whatever. And my job was to go out, find anyone that I think would be a good fit who is maybe already using the product, whatever it is, if it was digital product, physical product, go to them, say, hey, would you want to talk about this product? Do you think you would like to, include it in a video? And then discuss how much they'd want to be paid for that and get the video up. And the point of it being to kind of genuine sort of creators talking about genuine experiences they have with either the product or the brand. And obviously the brand's hope is that people see their favorite creators using a product, doing a thing and go, yeah, I'll do that as well, please.
How did the brands find out about the startup?
Well, a lot of that was the CEO, Jenny. She worked very hard with the tiny team that it was. Again, I think I was employee number 6 when I started, so it was properly small, and it was a lot of them working really hard to pitch to any kind of brands they could see. They've got a brilliant guy, Pete, who works there as one of their strategists, and he was very much really finger on the pulse with what brands are already doing online. So there was a lot of VPNs advertising. That was huge, and that was at a real peak. Yeah, no, that's what I mean. And he saw that was happening, and so it was a case of what is already existing, what brands are already doing things, and what brands aren't doing it. That we can go, cool, your competitors are doing that, you should be doing it as well. And the idea of the agency at the time is obviously a much bigger agency now. It's changed. It's doing really well. The point of it at the time was, we were all experts in YouTube. We'd watch loads of YouTube. So we knew the best creators that actually are going to use your stuff or that have the audience that you were trying to reach. But it was, the case of finding the brands was seeing what competitors are already doing and kind of going out to them and being like, this is something you can incorporate, almost trying to convince them that influencer is worth your money. You should be putting your time into this industry, which is already, I joined in 2020. It was already huge then, but it was only going to get bigger. And if any brands weren't already kind of working with creators, that was something we were trying to actively correct, because you really should be. These are people that have massive influence and will do a good job. They will make good things and they will explain your product in a way that is real. And that is far more helpful to a sort of an audience watching that than a billboard, or, it's a different offering.
Yeah. Oh, no, completely. I always think about Gymshark, who are like the OGs of this. And you think when Ben was small, I mean, I don't know how big the company was when they started doing Gymshark athletes, and somehow he convinced these athletes to like wear the gear, and it just like, you can think like it was such a clever way of marketing.
Genius.
But what were your tricks and tips to like get a brand over the line to be like, oh, influencer could do this, or like, oh, actually, yeah, we will spend this, they will get a load of views, but will it? Because there are some products. I mean, VPNs,
Yeah.
for example, just to add to that question, VPNs, I think, are one of those products where you'll either immediately go, okay, cool, there's a discount, I'll get
Yeah.
that product, or you go, okay, I'll bank that and I'll come back to that product because I don't need it
Yeah.
right now. And so therefore, if you had too many of the I'll bank it and come back to it, it might look like it wasn't a good, successful campaign,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Yeah.
I think the best sort of methodology we got to get brands to understand why influencer is important and why it's worth their time. The biggest thing was looking at where they were kind of lacking already. Like, you know, if you're trying to reach this specific audience, that audience is here, and quite often what we would do is sort of, you know, we could look into sort of audience demographic within specific creators, and we can go, okay, this person gets 50,000 views per video. Of those views, 90% of that audience are your exact demographic. You've got 40,000 people right there who would buy your products, who you know from your own research, that is your audience you want anyway. So a lot of it was a numbers game. It was being like, this audience already exists, and they are right here. And we would do a lot of like comment sentiment, you know, going into the comments of these people's videos and seeing where they talked about a non-brand deal thing. You know, maybe they've just bought a fashion creator, if they've just bought from this website, or they found a website that would give them discount codes, that kind of thing. Looking in the comments, and you'd see people going, oh, wow, I'd never heard of that website, I'm going to check that out now. Or, oh, that's such a great tip about this makeup product, I didn't know you could get it from this shop, I'm definitely going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Finding those kind of things where it was very organic, very sort of real life stories of, okay, this audience is already existing. This is a really easy way for you to talk to this audience, and kind of pitching creators as this method of sharing a message that was more direct. That it wasn't, has this person happened to switch on the right channel at the right time to see your TV advert? It was direct, it was immediate. And a big selling point was the creative control around it, was that, you know, ideally, and this was a big thing in Digital Voices, is that we wanted to make sure the creators sounded like what they normally would. We didn't want to give them a script to parrot off and, you know, do all the buzzwords and catchphrases and CTAs, because it sounds crap and nobody wants to actually listen to that. They'll skip it. But I think brands liked a lot that they could have their voice come through a creator that had far more impact than they could. So a lot of it was getting brands to understand you can have an active impact, you can have a direct influence over your exact demographic. And that was before, or not necessarily before paid existed and paid boosting, but it was kind of like the precursor where brands were starting to get an idea of, oh, an audience exists, really down to the minute, like exact of what they want, age, location, gender, all of that. You could narrow down to like one creator with that exact audience just by whatever content they happen to make.
Well, and the flip of that then. So let's say you're working with Creator X, right? We all love Creator X.
Big fan.
Creator X has 40,000 people that I want to talk to. I'm a brand, right? And I want to talk to them. And they've never made a sponsorship or a paid partnership. They are not an ad person. They are a creator who do videos on stuff.
Stuff and things.
Stuff and things, interesting stuff and things. And how do you convince them, okay, this isn't selling out. This isn't, and you can do an ad. Like, this is, it's not some sort of dark art secret that only agencies can do. You, based on the skills you do, definitely can make an ad. How do you convince the creator that it's those two things?
Yeah, it was an interesting part of that role was the conversations with creators and trying to get them, or not trying to get them, but trying to suss out whether their interest in an ad was because I would quite like to have some money, which is absolutely fair enough. If that is your career, it's completely understandable. Often there were those that weren't that bothered by that monetary impact. And so the challenge of getting them involved was, like you say, sort of trying to get them to see past the advert of it all. And a big part of that was we were only reaching out to people who we genuinely thought would use the product. We kind of, as a baseline, went, we're not going to bother trying to pitch a product to someone who we know that they're never going to use. They don't, if it was like a plant food creator, plant food like brand, and we were trying to sell it to someone who never had plants, every plant they killed died. There would be no point, So we always tried to pitch products that would genuinely be used by that creator, as far as we could understand from the content they posted. And after that, it was just, I guess, giving them control over how they conveyed the message. And it would be a case of, we're not going to give you a script. And it shouldn't feel like, a Sill It Bang advert in the middle of your content. Place it where it feels authentic. Do you have any video ideas coming up where this actually works really well? If it was, I don't know, it's walking boots, like say it was a walking boots brand, are you going on a hike at any point? You know, are you going on like a weekend away? Like, let's try and factor it in. And so I think a big part of getting creators on board was getting them to see that it didn't have to be maybe how they preconceived an ad read to feel. It didn't have to feel like a jarring switch from their normal content. If anything, we wanted to feel casual. We wanted to feel as you would be talking about any other product that you might recommend to a friend, in doing it in that way, and also kind of giving the proviso of like, your audience don't have to buy it if they don't want it, and kind of giving creators a bit of license to sort of say that and be like, you know, be authentic about it if they actually like the product themselves. I mean, I would hope that creators wouldn't talk about a product they didn't genuinely think was good to an audience. I mean, that's the baseline hope, is that a creator would only talk about a product and recommend a product they actually thought was good. As long as that's being done, there's kind of no negative to it, really, because at worst, you talk about something that a person in your audience goes, I don't really need that. And that's it. That's the interaction done. You know, that's not that disruptive, especially if they've done it in a way that is like the rest of their video. Shouldn't really feel disruptive. It should feel part of their normal kind of relationship with their audience. And at best, you've suggested something to your audience that might make their lives a bit better. There might be something they want. There might be something they didn't know about. Like, a VPN does have really good utility for a lot of people. You will get so many adverts for them. Not sponsored. Hashtag not sponsored. Gifted. But, you know, there are a million adverts for VPNs. But the fact is, most people could find a VPN to be useful. They're very cheap, and they do help in some different ways. So I think that was a big part, was explained to creators. Similarly, like in a sort of mirroring to the brands, it was an education piece. If, you know, for brands, it was, this is actually really useful. You should be doing it. And for creators, it was sort of this idea of, you could do this differently. You can do this however you want to do it, and let them lead on it. And I think that helped, that comfortability and control within the idea of doing a brand deal, made it a lot easier.
See, I'm a big nerd like you on YouTube. I know, right? And I've been loving, I don't know if you've been watching the QuickBooks series with different creators breaking down their earnings and stuff.
Oh, now I'm going to have to. Yeah, that sounds perfect.
It's so good. But yeah, like, and you look at it, and they only give the percentage. They don't obviously give the numbers, because that's the big. But yeah, brand deals are such a big chunk of a lot of people's income. I mean, Max Fosh's one that really stood out to me, where he was saying how much he gets from AdSense and how much you get some brand deals. And I was actually quite surprised, because I knew that his sort of videos, the sort of stunty videos, probably aren't the biggest CPM videos on the platform. But very surprising how low it was. And he's like, I need this money to keep the thing going. And I was like, you need to kind of put this on your actual channel. Because as a viewer of your channel, like, I don't mind the ads, but I also... because you look at getting someone that gets 1 million views, you think, oh, they must be getting decent. And then he was like, no, my best video is like, what, $4,000 or something.
This is it. It's different how people think. And I do think audiences at this point, they know that you can make money as an influencer. And I think they've got the Mr. Beasts in mind, which obviously are making absolute bank with, you know, every time, you know, without having to throw a brand deal in there, whatever. But I think people would be really surprised just how much brand deals prop up creators. It's a big thing. And it's something, as you rightly say, I got really nerdy about while I was working within the agency. And I became fascinated by the idea of like, just how much of a difference it can make month on month for a creator whose career is having a brand deal, not having one, have one drop out the last minute, have their pay not be paid out because they were chasing an invoice. All of those things can have such a huge effect, because it is and has become such a big proportion of the earnings for most sort of like top line creators at this point. Like, I can't really think of any of your sort of like macro creators that aren't regularly doing brand deals. And it's not, I mean, there will be partly greed, there will be that in some people, but a lot of the time it's because that's income, that's regular guaranteed income, where, you know, to a degree, social media, you're kind of at the whim of the platform. If your video, for whatever reason, is copyright striked, or, you know, age restricted, or you know, TikTok takes it down without having much control over that, because that's something that I know is happening to a lot of TikTok creators, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, this has been taken down and the appeal process is a nightmare, or just flat out doesn't work. That's a whole shot of potential AdSense, or, you know, money from views, whatever, that is just gone. Whereas if you've had a brand deal that month, that's guaranteed solid income. It's like getting a paycheck from a standard job. So it's part of the ecosystem now. But I think I think it holds a different position to maybe people that aren't as intensely into it as us would know.
No, completely. I recently put a thing out where I was talking to my audience, and I said, look, because I do stuff that's like, I have a foot in both camps. I work in social, but I'm quite critical of the business model of the platforms, and I that's like
I was gonna say,
and yeah. And I put out a video recently because some people had said they hadn't seen me for a while, and it was like, okay, right, here's the situation. Algorithms don't algorithms are the business model of the platform. They don't necessarily want to boost something that's maybe critical of them. I'm starting a newsletter. If you want to work around this algorithm, please join that. And it's doing like, it's getting a good response in that respect, because instead of me saying, join the newsletter, I'm going to email you once a month, I'm just saying, honestly, like, here is the problem. It was explaining to them that, like, in order to keep the channel going, or in order to like justify it, A, I need you to see the video so that the views are there. So if I want to approach a brand, and B, I also, like, if you want to go on Patreon, I need to build that relationship with you. And if you're not seeing the content, but you want to see the content, yeah. So it was just basically looking at both sides of this from a viewer perspective and that, and saying, okay, I don't want to take your email address, but unfortunately, this is kind of the only way we're going to be able to work around this if it's going to work for both of us, you know?
And I think you do have a lot of people, a lot of creators finding workarounds to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And trying to find ways where, because you are so at the whim of the algorithm, like so entirely. And again, in a way that I think it's devolving slightly. It's getting really, really erratic on a lot of platforms. I think
it's on random.
Yeah, it fully is. Someone in the back room has turned that onto random, but I don't know why. Like Instagram, if I'm honest, Instagram isn't one of my platforms. Like I'm aware of it. I do my best to understand it. I can never understand why a reel does well and why it doesn't. Like it just, there's no rhyme or reason. YouTube, I understand a little bit more. YouTube, the basic is just, it'll work, but it's going to take you absolutely ages. Like that is YouTube. You can keep doing the same things and you'll see a consistent good result, but it's going to take you a long time. TikTok scares me, and I'm fearful for all TikTok creators basically, because it just chops and changes so fast. It's fascinating talking with the other creators that we kind of chat with a lot, because you'll see people really like top end that are doing really, like Gavin always shocks me with the amount of stuff, because I'm like, no, my assumption of your account is that everything's doing great, because all I see of your stuff is the stuff that does really well. But then he'll bring up like, oh, this hasn't done well for whatever reason because this algorithm has switched. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me, because this stuff is just as good, if not better, than everything else you've been posting. It's the same kind of content, posted at a similar time, in a similar way, and is cut fast. And it's just not happened. And that's why TikTok, I do find a frightening place to exist on, because it's like, there's no control. And there doesn't seem to be much information about how to work it.
I would argue that TikTok are more transparent than YouTube, but I do know what you mean. Like it's quite hard. I mean, I watched the YouTube Insiders channel or whatever it is with it, which is like, honestly, just like, you're giving me I want this information. Just give me a bit more pizzazz. Like,
just anything. Just anything. A little bit of effort, please.
Like it's just so. And don't get me wrong. I don't mean that you've got to fucking put green screens in and like whatever. I just mean, be more excited about your own developments,
pretend you care a little bit.
Just like it feels like they're sitting there just going, yes, we have put in a new feature, and I'm like, come on then, like, maybe tell me what would be useful. But no, it's quite mad though, because the algorithm. I mean, YouTube. I have a friend who's grown a massive. He's over 100K now. He's very proud of his little plaque and stuff. And good. I'm very envious, because I want to get to that. But I was also like, oh my god, like, well done. You don't realize the 0.1% of channels that get to that. Like, we all think Mr. Beast. We go, it's got to be the 10 million plus. But no, like, under 5% of channels get over 10,000 subscribers. Like, you're doing better than you think you are if you're in the double fit in the
YouTube
5 figures.
Is easy. I think people think that. Because there will be so many people that watch so many YouTubers and watch so many creators and see these channels, and I think it used to be a lot easier, or it was far easier to find your community. It was far easier to access the people that are going to like your stuff, and I think social media was easy when it was far more collaborative, when it was low budget collaborative, when instead of being like, this has to be a whole organized, video where we're both together and we make sure we both get a brand deal in it. So we can get, like, all of that stuff, I think, while it's great, and like there were so many ways that pushed the industry further, I think it also became so individualistic. Like a channel became so siloed. Whereas it used to be, you'd get a creator that was your friend over for the day and you'd both film a couple videos, and they were low budget and they were nothing, and they were challenge videos or they were anything. Or if it was, if you were a vlogging creator, you just got your friend round for the day and, vlogged your time with them. But all of a sudden you're clashing two audiences together and you're sharing those audiences, and an audience all of a sudden goes, oh, cool, they like that person, maybe I like that person. Just that collaborative with the content does so good, and I think it's what audiences really like. It's the same thing as what junkets are for films. It's seeing people that you really like from different projects chatting and having a nice time talking about the things that they care about together. Everyone wants to watch that. That's why junket content does so well. But I think social media has gotten a bit siloed to influencer and individual creators, and I think collaboration, I genuinely think, is the easiest way to have growth on social media by far.
Oh no, completely. I remember talking to Colin at the Earwolf Network in America, the podcast network, and he told me that we have spent millions. We have spent millions on billboards, on TV ads. We once had a short spot and like a Super Bowl thing to promote podcasts, and the best return on any investment was another one of our shows saying, we really like this show, go and check it out.
That's it.
Like literally that was it. And I was like, oh my God. Like the fact that you can have a Super, but then think about it, like you're sat at home watching the Super Bowl, you don't want to be told there's another show to watch.
That's not what you're there for.
Yeah, exactly. But whereas if I'm listening to like this podcast and you say to me, oh, I really like this, channel or series like the QuickBooks thing, like we're both going to go, right, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
I will come
exactly.
back to that because it's like, it's a different moment. So you go, yeah, you've wasted your money there, but you've learned. So at least you've not going to do it again. And I suppose it comes back to, again, what you're saying here with ad spots, with YouTubers, is you're going like, how can I, it's quite a skill, like how can I find a spot in a video that will absolutely work for both parties and actually like make them hopefully buy there and then, but if not, like you can still track it in a month's time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that collaboration, it's the exact same thing for the brand deals. It's going, this is already a person with a user base that trusts their recommendations, whether that be my friend also has a channel, you should go and subscribe to them, or whether that is I've just downloaded this VPN and it works really good, you should try it too. Like, it's the same thing. It's recommendations from a friend. It is someone you like and trust and who potentially is aspirational to you, going, here's what I do and here's what I like. You might like that too. It's the same concept, but all of it is really helpful because I think so much of us have turned to social media for information and for, I really like the thing of, is it Gen Z that's using TikTok as a search engine and is now written off Google completely? That is fascinating. And we should talk about that another time because I know that we could talk for hours on that.
We'll do a part two.
That I find fascinating, just what social media has become. And because of that, brands should be doing this better.
No, well, this is the thing. So it's quite funny because I have friends that I keep because I'm interested in the way they do things. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and that sounds really horrible, but like, there's elements of the way they build their life. So I have some friends, they use AI for like, they're like, where can I go? What's this sort of thing? And I go, okay, tell me, because I don't do that. So I'm like, you tell me what you're doing, right? I still Google, right?
Good.
So for me, I'm like, and Google do the like AI, I get, but I just search for a thing, right?
Me too.
And then I have friends who, and I do this for like holidays or like if I'm going to a new city or something, I will go to TikTok and I'll be like, what's going on and stuff. And so I know that it's definitely fragmenting, and I know Google is scared of that, but like I find it really fascinating that you've got these like 3 search places that you basically didn't have like 5 years ago.
Just didn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking on another episode of the podcast where the Edinburgh Fringe show that I did sold out pretty much on content. Like we had an 80 seater room, and every day we asked people how they found out about the show, and they were like, we watch clips, like you put out clips, like the clips on TikTok. And I was like, okay, wow, we've had 1 million views over the last 11 months of putting out a post every day.
Yeah.
We're now got 80 people in a room. Like
it's a direct correlation
yeah,
of
that
what
alone,
that works. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, not all of them would have seen it because one of them would have booked a ticket before, or a few friends or whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is, the room's full.
Yeah.
Like you can't ask for a better response than that,
It's just how it is, and yeah, I imagine Google must be shitting themselves because they've had the monopoly on searching. For as long as they've sort of existed, because it's always been the better version of the thing, the easiest version of the thing. But I have found myself doing it as well, like for restaurants. Like that's my go-to now is, if I'm going to a specific place, like if I'm looking restaurants in East London or whatever, I'm going to TikTok first because somebody will have made a video going, here's the 5 best places in East London to eat. And it will be, but the reason that's good is because I trust it more because there's a person going, I've eaten here. Here's a video of what the food looks like. Here's a video inside the restaurant. And as someone that kind of quite likes to manage an experience and make sure I know what's going, I would always read a menu before I go to a restaurant. That's exactly what I want. I know what the lighting is going to be in when I get in there. You know everything. Sometimes they'll tell you how far it is from the tube station or what the easy, all of that. It's all of the information that I could have gotten if I'd Googled and gone down a few different search strings, gone to maybe TripAdvisor or whatever, and I could have found all of that information. But instead, I've got someone who has that lived experience telling me what the lived experience was. Yeah. I trust that way more than a random review on a Trustpilot because I don't leave reviews on anything. So whenever someone does, I'm a bit suspicious of what had to happen for you to leave that review? Was it actually that good, or do you put everything as 5 stars? Or vice versa, was it actually shit? Or did you just not really like your meal that much?
We'll get back to the podcast in just a minute, but if you're enjoying the show, please do take a second to subscribe or review it on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you think this episode would help a friend, a small business, a co-worker, please do pass the pod on to just one person. It helps more than you'll ever know. And if you're looking for a social media freelancer with 16 years experience, my contact details are in the box below. Now, let's jump back into it.
What got you there?
So me and my partner have put in a day, one afternoon in December, where we are going to review places that we've been this year because we realise that we haven't really left any reviews. And there are so many lovely places that we've been over the last 12 months that we are they deserve a boost.
Yeah,
they deserve
definitely.
a review, they deserve something. Or, the other way around, they were shit. Let's take a minute. And now that we've got a bit of distance, we're not just aggressively hitting the keyboard.
Yes, you've decompressed, you've processed the anger.
Yeah. And so I know what you mean. And for me, it's so funny, for my birthday, which is just under a month's time, my parents were like, we're going to take you here for a meal. And I looked it up on TikTok. And I sent them a link. And they don't have TikTok, so they couldn't watch it. And they were like, what is this? And they knew what TikTok was. But I was like, it's a video of the restaurant, so you can see it. And they go, there's photos on the website. And we looked it up. And so the disconnect, I feel, and don't get me wrong, I have friends of mine who are way older than me that use TikTok, so it's not just an age thing. But I think it's just the habitual thing that's changed in terms of search. And
the instinct is gone.
Yeah, and the relationship between the platforms is just so... although I was doing some stuff for... I did some stuff with Skyscanner and EasyJet earlier in the year, and both of them kept finding this trend where people were they were doing a sort of B-roll, what I would call a B-roll clip. So apparently they become A-roll on TikTok. A B-roll clip of somebody just standing with their suitcase on the way home from the holiday. And they would be saying, and they would have text over it that would be me lamenting all the TikTok videos that I watched before I went away, and I didn't go to any other stuff. And I was oh wow, okay, right, that is hitting hard. Because
it really is. I have favorited so many restaurants that I'm never going to go to, but I'm maybe I'll go. Or so many Lake District cabins that I'm definitely I'm going to go to one of those any day now. And there's 50 in a random, because I don't separate out my favorites into collections. I know I should. Wow. Because none of them mean anything. Because then I'll be scrolling past. And then sometimes they disappear because the video gets taken down. And I'm like, I wonder what I saved that for or what that was. It's just become a graveyard of videos.
I have to. Or else it drives me down. Yeah. Okay, let's quickly move on because we've got about 50 minutes left. Let's move on to freelancing. So
yes.
You've worked for 4 years, basically being the intermediary between brands and creators.
Yeah.
And now you list last time we spoke, you listed yourself as the emergency editor for creators. Is that still how you would classify being a freelancer?
No, not at all. I think I very much it's changed massively. When I left the agency, the idea of leaving was that I really enjoyed being a part of the agency and being involved with creators. I love that. But I didn't feel I was necessarily in the side of it that I wanted to be. Like, I really loved getting creators brand deals and that side of things, but I thought there was more to be done. I wanted to work more closely with creators, work on in a more creative way as much as possible. But also, yeah, I wanted to be a bit more creator side, the brand side. That was the big push for the move. And my background is as a video editor. So more than anything, when I made the move to freelance, it was like, well, that's an immediate skill that I can just do, that I can just sell without having to completely I don't know, upskill and rebrand and whatever. It was immediately like, well, I have a skill set. I know how to edit for content creators because I'd done a little bit of it before, very ad hoc. And so I reached out to a few friends that were content creators and started cold emailing a few creators to see if they needed. And yeah, very much pitching myself as like if you just need a video turned around fast. I mean, I've been cutting for sort of social media and I'd done a lot of sort of like trailers, that kind of thing, which more than anything has just taught me to edit fast and to do quite pacey cuts, which is all social media kind of is really on a sort of day-to-day level. It's very, very pacey. And so I was like, look, if you need a video turned around fast, I can do that. But what I learned very quickly was, well, that was fine. And I was enjoying that. More than anything, I was having conversations with people where this idea of consulting on optimization of their channels was the conversations I was having more and more. You know, if I would go to creator meetup events or I would chat with friends at creators, a lot of the conversations we were having was not about the actual cutting the content. It was, how can I grow my channel? How can I reach more people? How can I move across to a different platform that I don't currently have? You know, I was having a lot of conversations with TikTok creators that only had TikTok. And I was like, that terrifies me because your account could be taken down like that. And it's really hard.
Mine was.
Well, this is it. And it terrifies me. And there's a lot of content creators on TikTok that just have that. And they don't have a backup. I mean, I was speaking with a few people that like, they just had all their money that they'd earned still in the app. And I was like, you need to get it out. You need to get it out immediately. As soon as it comes in, take it out.
When my YouTube balance hit £1,000 for the first time, I was like, yay. And then 5 minutes later, I was like, hang on. I need that money out as soon as possible. Because
it's nice to see the money going up.
Yeah,
and
in
earning,
my mind, I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I thought, hang on, if they take down the channel, like they took down my TikTok, I can't just get that money. Like, that's not the thing. So I spent like a week because you had to like verify and
it's a whole thing. But so what happened was after a few months, the conversations I was having was all turning to sort of like more consultancy and helping with growth and optimization. And I've worked with a few awesome TikTok creators that again didn't have a YouTube platform at all, like it didn't exist. And so worked with them to set one up, you know, to make a banner, to help them out with a content strategy, you know, what kind of regular formats are you doing, playlists, that kind of thing. A bit of editing, helping out with that as well. That's something I kind of always offer in the background now is like, if you need someone to help you cut that stuff, I can help with that. But more than anything, it was that like strategy. It was like, how can I optimize the content I already exist? Because for me, I'm like, if you're posting on TikTok, you've got shorts ready to go. You've basically, as long as they're less than 3 minutes, get them up, post them regularly. You know, you've got a backlog of content. You might as well be doing it. And YouTube is a far more secure platform. You know, it's a lot harder to get a YouTube channel taken down unless you do something real bad. They've got 3 strikes and you can appeal every single strike and you can fix all the strikes as well. It's a lot easier. But yeah, so it started, my freelance journey kind of started editing more as like this was a fallback. It was something that I knew I could do, but very quickly moved to this like content strategy, which is what my sort of main offering now is. And it's finding people that need a bit of help that maybe, you know, a lot of it is focused on YouTube because that's my homeland, that's where I love. It's the thing I know the most about and the platform I love the best. And I think it's the best platform. I'm sorry, I do.
I still do. I think
I
just spend more time on TikTok. That's the problem.
Same, which I don't love about myself. I think it rewards creators the best. I think creators are given really good opportunities, and I think it's a really great place to exist if you're going to be on social media. But yeah, so a lot of it was that. I now also do a little bit of creator management, very ad hoc for like brand deals more than anything, because I've looked at so many influencer brand deal contracts at this point. And I say this to a lot of our sort of like TikTok creator friends, I'm happy to just have a look over and let you know if you're absolutely being scammed out of your money or if they're asking you way too much, or asking you to agree to way too much rather. So yeah, it's a bit of a smorgasbord. I'm calling myself a social media consultant. Again, fake job, real job. But
know what you
it's
mean.
become a thing, and I've become so surprised that what I thought was going to be my biggest offering was going to be the editing
Mm.
is now just something that's a bit on the back burner and something I use if I need to.
Mm.
But the biggest thing was, like I was sort of saying earlier when we were talking, is this experience that I didn't realize I was building of
Yeah.
how these platforms work or how brand deals work and what's acceptable and what makes sense for how much you're being paid, that kind of thing. All experience I have and I know off by heart. And you kind of forget that that's not the experience that creators have, is that they don't see that other 180 of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
industry. They don't see behind those closed doors of conversations with brands and
Mm.
what's fair, what's not fair. You just receive what you receive, and you kind of hope, and you text your friends going, okay, I've got this brand deal through, have you
Yeah.
had this, are you going to this opportunity, have you been paid? It's
Yeah.
kind of a little bit word of mouth. And so yeah, I've been doing a lot more with that, like sort of consulting strategy stuff.
I actually had, I won't name the podcast because I think they're still going, but they asked me if I would edit for them. And they literally were like, we want to be the Diary of the CEO for, and then their category. And they gave me a day to basically
Yeah.
make them a trailer. And I was like, first of all, they didn't send me enough files, but they also, like, I was like, why, like, what, we've got
Yeah.
that, like, let's make our own. And they went, no. And then
Yeah.
it wasn't, and I was just getting really like frustrated with this like quick cut, like over the top thing. So when you were saying that, I was sitting there going, oh. And now
Yeah,
I'm,
you know the pain.
yeah, and now I think I can talk about it because it's going live next week, but I'm just finished editing Good Bad Luxury, which is a
Cool.
new show that's launching soon, which will be out by the time this comes out. And
Yeah.
the pacing's so lovely. Like, it's
Is
just
it?
nice
Bit of breathing
conversations.
room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's what I aspire to get to, is like not the panic editing, not the like everyone doesn't have an attention span. Like
Yeah.
the let's respect the audience. Yes, maybe it'll turn off a few people that have no attention span, or it will,
Yes.
not grab them with the best hook possible, but it will
Maybe.
be
Look,
that relation, yeah.
I think there needs to be a space for it as well, because otherwise no one will have an attention span ever again. Because if everybody edits for, well, people need to be hooked within the first half a second,
Yeah.
we will all only ever do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what everything will become. And I don't think it's, and I'm sure it's not wrong to do that editing.
No,
That's
not at all.
fine.
I
And
do
there
it
is
a lot,
content
but-
that works really well for it.
Yeah.
And I think, as I've seen a lot of it from like the history channels, and there's a few people that do really brilliant like London history stuff, and they do very quick cuts, but the audio track, the narration, that's a constant, and that's at a very storytelling pace, but just interspersed with loads of images and different things. And I think that works really well, and I think it's kind of genius because it still gets people, and you see it in the comments being like, clearly my attention span is fine, because it'll be like a 6-minute video talking about the history of lampposts in London, and they've watched all the way through. But a big part of why they've done that is because it's been fast-paced visually. It's kept you engaged visually, and I think there's times to play to it, but I definitely think there has to be content that isn't that, because otherwise, like, I really like whenever a sort of there's a guy, some part of sort of Southeast Asia, who makes food, and his videos are like 20 minutes long, and it takes ages, and it's all really, really slow one shots of him like plucking stuff off grains and like mincing things, and I never know what he's trying to make at any point.
Yeah.
But I love when those come up, because I'm like, good.
Yeah.
I can sit and watch something for a
Yeah.
really long time, and I'm not swiping. Even though I love to swipe, and my brain says, give me swipes. We love swipes. Sometimes I can feel like a very, conscious, okay, we're just going to watch something nice and good and interesting. What is he making? I never know until literally the very end, and then it's like ink for something. But it's the best.
A big reaction to that and a couple of other pods that I've been invited to edit for this year is the way I'm going to be editing these. I'm not going to be like speed editing. I want it to be the shortest it could possibly be, because I think I want the value to just be there. But I'm not going to be thinking, right, gotta because because I want it to be a thing that people go, okay, right, I'm going for an hour walk, or I'm going on the commute, or whatever.
Yes.
I'm going to listen to two professionals chat about the industry, and I don't have to, like, you can double speed it if you want, I don't mind, but like the point is that you have just a nice I don't want to call it background, that's not gonna, except that would be
not
too
background. You want people to actively listen, but something you can put on and passively engage with.
Yeah. And I remember you like Gavin Phil's TikTok community thing that I invited you to, like, it's like you were talking about community. Like I think, like I don't understand why that is not more of a thing. Like
Yes.
the level to which we are all doing the same, as in creators are all doing the
Yeah.
same job. And I'm the same thing as you. Like if someone says in that group or elsewhere, hey, got this thing, can anyone help me
Yeah.
with it? I work in with brands. Like if you want me to
Yeah.
have a look at something, like I'll have a look at something, and
Yeah.
it's if I can help, I can help, because I do think all what's it, a rising tide lifts all
Yes.
ships, that sort of thing. And I do find it quite frustrating. There was someone who commented on a thing that I put up the other day on LinkedIn that was like, I basically said like, what have you worked on recently you were proud of? And
Mm.
they were like, oh no, I don't want to say that because I might have nicked your client. And I was like, if you have my client, you're better for the client than me. That's my attitude
Yes.
to it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
like
agree.
I don't get me wrong, I'd be a bit upset because I'd be
Yeah.
like, nah, but like. I mean, you kind of have to have that attitude because
You
otherwise you're
do.
going to drive yourself mad.
And it's gonna get real lonely and real difficult. And I think you're right. Community is such a real part of every aspect of this industry. It's an absolutely huge part of it, but particularly for creators. And this was a big part of. I mean, this is how we initially started speaking. Was in the agency I was in. We started this sort of like outreach, support program where creators could come and ask questions about brand deals and about any part of this industry, and we could kind of give them, it wasn't legal advice, but it was unbiased context for anything, which I think was really important, and it was something I really cared about. And I do see it, in the group chats that we're in, where it's sort of, I think there's a real nice openness in the TikTok community that we kind of sit within, where everyone is very happy to go, this is what I'm currently doing, or this is what I've just had, or these are the conversations I'm having. How does this line up for you guys? And I
Yeah.
do think there's so many times where I'm so impressed by the vulnerability by a lot of these creators of going, here's something I'm really trying to do and it's not working. Does anybody know why? Can anyone help with that? And I love that so much, because I think so much of social media for the longest time was cloak and dagger. It was hidden
Yeah.
behind mystery. It was, I figured out how to make this algorithm work. I'm not going to tell you because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to do the best. Or I'm being paid this much by a brand and I'm not going to tell you that. And more often than not, that only worked to the detriment of a lot of people.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
used to see such a huge gap between not only male to female creators, but POC creators got paid way less. And that was something that we would see a lot. And often it would have originally stemmed from brands not offering the same amount of money, which sucks and is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd also see it with POC creators where they would be going, hey, this is my day rate for this. And it would be vastly lower
Yeah,
than
yeah.
creators. And that it changed between sort of vertical as well. You'd have creators in photography and filmmaking who would charge considerably more than people that were doing like makeup videos. They were getting, in terms of value for a brand, it's the same amount of views, same amount of subscribers, same amount of clicks. But they were valuing either themselves different or they had been told to value themselves different. That was what was happening. And because no one was talking to each other, it made that fester. It meant that, you weren't having conversations with people, or the people you were having conversations with were the exact same genre of content, were other people in the same demographic as you. And so, funnily enough, you did have this sort of space where, particularly, like I say, female creators, POC creators, all felt that they were being paid the same as everybody else, but they weren't. They were being paid the same as each other. And I think what I'm seeing from this sort of like UK TikTok perspective is that openness is there. It's being spread and it's being completely creator led. Like, it's still not coming from the other side of the industry, but it is starting to exist. And I think it's the best. And I think it only benefits everyone, for everyone to be so open and vulnerable with the business side of this world.
Oh no, completely. I was working with a PR agency a little while ago, and they wanted to find a load of creators, and I put it in the group to ask if anyone had the thing, and I sent them a load of lists of people as well as those. And I remember then sort of sending back saying, "Oh, we'll do this for this for this," and I was like, "You do know they're gonna talk it's not like they're all gonna be best friends, but I would wager that because they're all in the same area of like niche, they're definitely going to have some sort of contact." And so
They will.
yeah, it just seemed odd to have to explain that in 2025. But
Hey, look,
what do you
this is
do?
what we're here for.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, genuinely, thank you so much for taking part. It's really, really
It's been
lovely. Thank you.
fun. I hope this has
Yeah.
been useful and good, and I hope people enjoy listening to us waffle.
What an episode. As someone trying to build my own YouTube and TikTok following, I loved hearing Laurie's thoughts on the creator economy and why the best influencer marketing doesn't sound like marketing at all. But we all know that instinctively. It's funny, like we all work in marketing, but as soon as we clock out, none of us want to see a paid ad or be marketed to in any way. What was your biggest takeaway? Comment it below. If you're enjoying this podcast, please don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up on YouTube or a 5-star review on iTunes and Spotify. It really helps more than you'll ever know. And if you have a friend, a small business or a co-worker who you think will enjoy this episode, please pass the pod on to them. Just pass it on to one person. I'll see you all in the next episode. Godspeed and keep uploading.